And you're all very welcome to House of Rugby. My name is Máire Treasa Ní Dhubhghaill, and on this week's show we'll look back on a very exciting weekend of URC action as the first block of URC league games comes to a close. And joining me here in studio is Lindsay Peat and Pat McCarry. You're both very welcome. We'll jump straight in with the first game on Friday night. Munster took on Glasgow on a freezing night in Musgrave Park, and they got the better of them and did it playing very exciting rugby, Lindsay.
Have you thought out?
Just about.
I was watching on the telly. I was like, I don't envy you.
I got these really, really cool heat patches that you can put into your shoes and that you have on your hands. So I felt like
all
a
over
new
your body.
person.
Yeah.
Dervla and Emer were very jealous because I kept saying to them how toasty my feet were.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to do everyone else out since Bernard Jackman had that kind of, was it USB heated?
I have one of those as well.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's trying to come up with these new ways. But I have to say, if you weren't heated by your new find, you would be heated by the fact that Munster, I thought, were sublime. I thought it was a cracking game. I thought their attacking rugby was exceptional. I thought Tom Ahern at 6'9", who had like a kind of midfielder's catch at some point, which we'll go on to. I just thought they were exceptional, and I think. One thing over the last probably 12 months, and we would have covered this last year, Pat, was that Graham Rowntree was all about the speed of the ruck. And if you're going to compete with the likes of Leinster and La Rochelle and any of these big hitting teams, the speed of your ruck had to be quick. And by God, was it quick. Craig Casey was first to it. He was even clearing rucks at times. They will be probably disappointed at that, but I just think the nature of their win, probably disappointed that they let Glasgow get their own bonus point on the loss. But Glasgow have not won, I think, since 2008, so it's not been a good hunting ground. And I think the all-weather pitch certainly suits the new style of Munster rugby now, I have to say. I was fairly impressed with them.
Yeah, they were so impressive on the attack, Pat, weren't they? I know we'll touch on the line-out mauls and how the defensive maul kind of failed them when it comes to Glasgow's performance. But Munster themselves, it looks like, as Graham Rowntree alluded to afterwards, they're a possession-based team now, and this is what they rep every week in training, and they're so comfortable on the ball and they just look so exciting.
Yeah, the confidence is kind of flowing through them now, isn't it? And I saw a bit there, I think it was yesterday, a guy who's very good on Twitter, like EK Rugby Analysis, he was doing a great piece on how Munster are even using like their kickoffs as like an attacking platform now as well, and he was saying how they would have targeted, they showed that like Glasgow leave players short on the left hand side, and so then they target him like, but it wasn't kind of, they didn't immediately go up the left, they feinted into the middle, went back to the left, and then that's where you saw Ahern like putting his hand up all of a sudden as a blind side now, like and showing like that we don't just have Ryan Baird as kind of an option there, but he came out of nowhere and then just drew his man in, got the pass away, and it led to that Diarmuid Barron try. And just kind of like, so they're that like they have their homework done, everybody knows what their job is, the guys are doing the decoy runs, they're kind of like just out like in a way what Leinster done. And even like Rowntree said it even last season, didn't he, that like they are looking at Leinster like, and you know, it's a compliment to them, and they're kind of adapting it to their own game. And yeah, you could just see like just how the forwards are kind of buying into it as well, like, and it's not just there to turn it around the corner anymore, they're playing a part in the moves, and kind of and it's all kind of at the moment clicking very well for them, and let's see if they can take that into this weekend. Yeah,
every player seems to bring the ball to the line and are always looking for that offload.
Yeah, like one person we would have identified last year again was Anton Frisch, who was an exceptional find by Munster, and we've seen two exceptional offloads by him. One an out the back little chicken wing for Craig Casey's try last week against Leinster, but even on Friday night, it led to Sean O'Brien's chip kick. Exactly. So he took the contact, his hands were free, he's always trying to keep the ball alive. O'Brien goes up the wing, the confidence for him to chip in, Nankervelli gets it, continues the momentum, because you have to remember when you're playing, Glasgow are absolutely breaking their arse back, their lungs are pounding, they're thinking, right, we're going to slow the ball down, but again, because of the speed of Munster continually bringing that ball and keeping the ball moving, it's just putting so much pressure on Glasgow and any other team they're playing. And then obviously it goes out to Tom Ahern, who again did exceptionally well to lean into his man and not be put out over the sideline. Now we see him playing this role that P. O'Mahony as well. It's usually kind of the likes of your hooker, you'd kind of mismatch out in those 15 metre channel or 5 metre channels, and he seems to have been hanging out there with great success, and I just thought he was exceptional in everything he did, and he was obviously part of that try as well, where he drew the man, weighted, two hands on the ball, and then gave the offload. So I just thought he was deserved player of the match. I believe he was full back before he took the stretch to 6'9", so it does make sense. But it's all the skill base that they would have built up to come in. And I suppose the question now is, what kind of combinations do they play? They can now play around with the opposition, because obviously Mike Prendergast would have done that leading up to Glasgow. Obviously for Dogbo's try as well. They identified something where they just wanted to quickly get the ball, where Glasgow were quite narrow or they weren't marking him. So for his first try, even easy under the post. So we're now seeing a deeper kind of level to Munster, which we haven't seen over the last number of seasons, and hopefully that'll just bring more success from them.
And they were out for revenge after what happened in Thomond Park. Like we all remember last March, Glasgow were 28-0 ahead at half time, so they had targeted this fast start. But Glasgow didn't do themselves any favours. They had conceded 4 penalties in the first 6 minutes, and that's a real problem for Glasgow, their ill discipline.
Yeah. Isn't it funny, like, just to think back at that Glasgow game at Thomond earlier, and like that's when, well, the people were already kind of thinking Munster's season was in trouble, but to go back now, what are we, like 8 months later, and see how things have changed so much, and as I said, like the confidence that's kind of flowing through those guys, and that's a kind of a problem for them. Like they're kind of, as Lindsay was kind of saying, Munster trying to get quick ruck ball, they're trying to kind of slow it down. They were kind of sloppy, they were under pressure, giving away penalties, and kind of giving them cheap outs as well for Munster as well. Like, so a lot for, like, I know they rested a couple of guys now, like with an eye on Europe as well, but still have some big hitters out there, but that's kind of something for them to work on. But for Munster, they'll go in now, like back-to-back home games now as well, so they'll go in very confident for the weekend. And just another guy that like Frisch has kind of been so impressive, but Nankerville has kind of just settled in so well, hasn't he? I loved his try, like where like you just wouldn't expect. You were expecting that to go left. Like even watching the replay, even though I know he scored it, I was watching the replay and I'm still expecting it to go left, and he just barrels through a load of people and
he'd
gets
no
a
right
great
to
try.
score that, really. Like Glasgow were fairly
they're stacked
set,
there in the middle, like and so he's done so well. And
those partnerships and the combinations that Munster are building week on week, it just feels like they're really settled. You know, when you look at Crowley and Casey at 9 and 10, and Nankerville and Frisch, and I think that builds the confidence as well.
Like I'll be so like interested to see the team this weekend, because like it just seems like Casey and Crowley are, like, now that the World Cup is over and they're back and settled back in, they're the 9 and 10 now, and it's like so interesting. Just I was surprised there last weekend to see Conor Murray again on the bench, like, and is he going to accept this role in the team that he's almost like he's doing for Ireland, like, and Casey's the man, like, but Casey's just doing so good, isn't he? Like that Roundtree seems to have said, you're the guys, you have it, like, you know, and let's see how you get on. So will it be Murray and Crowley against Bayonne at the weekend, or will Casey get a chance again? But like Casey's like, it's going so well, and he is just kind of making a tick and getting such quick ball away. So like there's just so many positives for Munster at the moment, isn't there? Like, as I said, 8 months on, the world has changed so much. Like, will we be wearing Munster jerseys at the end of the
No,
season?
we will not. That was a once-off, okay? Don't even bring that up.
Now, Graham Rowntree himself wasn't too pleased. He said he was a bit torn after the performance, because they're looking at the 4 maul tries and a penalty that Glasgow scored. Now, Glasgow have been using the line-out as a potent weapon all season long. 19 of their tries before this game had come for a line-out. So you know it's coming. You know what to expect from them. They obviously look at it and rep it in training over and over again. It works for them. Johnny Matthews is the leading try scorer in the URC.
Tries.
8 tries now after the weekend. But what can Munster do differently, or how will they reflect on that performance when it comes to defending the maul?
It's probably 2 points to this, and Pat can come in on this whether he agrees or not. So what has been a potent weapon even in the dark times 8 months ago was Munster's maul. So when you're practicing your own maul, you obviously work how to defend it as well. And the fact that obviously for their kick-off and identified little Achilles heels against Glasgow as they came to town, that would have been one thing they would have identified, because Johnny Matthews came off the bench last week and had 2 tries against Ulster. So why then they would have ran through all of that at training. They didn't seem to adapt to that. That's the other bit. Do you know, all well and good when a team are going to their strengths, and you know, but there was nothing to kind of negate that. So either you go up and you try and win the ball, and if you're not winning the ball, you stay down, you try and absolutely break them. You kind of split the setup, and that's the only way you can really do it. But they didn't even kind of throw a dig, really. They didn't give away, like, right, grand, Glasgow were cynical. They got a yellow card in the first half for being cynical and slowing the ball, whereas Munster kind of didn't do that. They were And that probably showed the naivety and inexperience of the youth.
And that's a tactic that Glasgow have.
Oh, hugely.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to go to your strengths. We will see it this weekend when they go, is it to Bath? They're going to Bath
Glasgow
for the European.
against Northampton.
Oh, sorry, Northampton in the European. So that's going to be something. Why deviate from something that is working for you and getting you tries all season?
But they play on the edge. They've given away the most penalties in the competition, but are sitting pretty high up in the league.
Well, yeah. They're in the top half of the URC, so they're doing something right. I would like to see their discipline improve, because, I mean, they did give, I suppose, they allowed that momentum to continue, whereas instead of maybe using the speed of the ruck and slowing it down, you can be cynical and get away with it. But they were kind of blatantly like, nah, we're just going to really really annoy you here. And it didn't really faze Munster, but I think Roundtree will be. And that's where RG comes in, and Jean Klein, where they're just big physical men who can, help you at the mall. So
Peter O'Mahony as well, coming back in the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. But that's where the likes of, that's where the aspirations, we've seen exactly what Tom Ahern, say, for example, can do. Even John Hognett, great going forward, really good in their setup and their team play. But there are going to be times where you have to be able to go toe to toe and arm wrestle the opposition when you come up against bigger packs. So I think that's going to be a work on, I would think, now going forward.
Is it a technical thing, organisation? Is it power? Is it a combination of all three?
Well, I would think personally, if I was coaching, even myself still playing, like, if you have players who are big and aggressive, say you're staying down your 5 metre, it would be my belief that you try and stay down your 5 metre if you're not able to compete in the air, because if you think about it, you have three of your players out of action between your lifter and your jumper. So stay down and try and one sack the jumper, and the other two are splitting the kind of supports of those lifters away, and then you just you really negate the momentum they'll build and set it up. And even if you delay time, you're getting all your pack, and they've lost whatever they've gained, in winning the ball. So that'd be my philosophy in it. So it would be tactical when you're anywhere in from 10 metres out from your try line. So
fixable?
Absolutely fixable. As I said, you have to have something to work on, and these young players have shown glimpses of exactly their skill set. But this is just being cute. Like, my key word last year was being a cute here, and with age comes experience, and you don't always have to be the quickest, but you can be the smarter one when you have those years under your belt, and that's where the likes of P. O'Mahony is essential.
Ollie Jaeger came off the bench. I'd say it was a real shock to the system, playing in those temperatures after coming from New Zealand. How did you think he did, Pat?
Yeah, he's good. He's just a good acquisition, isn't he? Like, and at the time, I remember it was announced Crusaders. I think Scott Penny down there, the old Munster kind of coach, he was kind of saying that he's coming over, and it was almost like, who's going to get him? A lot of people thought Ulster were going to be key to get him because they were short in that position, and then Munster kind of, they must have been putting the feelers out in advance as well. But I was just kind of reading a couple of pieces about him. I think even in the Independent there at the weekend, kind of teeing up his appearance, and just a lot of people saying, like, just such a big guy as well. Like, but he came on and kind of got around the place okay, didn't he? Like, in his little shift, and like, it looks at home, and kind of like, and has already probably had a few sessions with the lads, like, so but yeah, he's going to just be a good, it's just like, I know some people are saying it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of push on and kind of get into that Ireland setup as well, like, but he's such a kind of big guy, and like if kind of almost like this kind of the new version of a prop as well, like, but if he can kind of get a run of games together for them, like, I think he is a good signing for them, like, so yeah, such like, and that's another place where we're talking about young players in the Munster setup, like, you have the likes of like Buckley and Wycherley as well, like, but again, like, you kind of need some of those kind of hard nuggety players that you were talking about there with Klein and O'Mahony, and like, that's maybe one area where Munster might be short, like, so if you can get someone like him in, that's perfect, like, and if he can kind of bed in, it's like experience, nous, being a cute whore as well every now and then, like, and just kind of somebody who can kind of win you the odd penalty, or kind of, or hold up one side of the ruck or the scrum, perfect, like, yeah. So let's see how he gets on, and yeah, tougher tests ahead for him, but a great signing, I think. Yeah,
and a great bit of business as well. Jean Klein signing on for another 2 years. RG Snyman, I suppose, when we saw Jean Klein was signing, it was only inevitable that he'd be let go. There's talk that he might be going to Bath, which would be a huge signing for them. But when it comes to durability, looking at both players, Jean Klein has played so many minutes and was player of the season last year for Munster.
He's really grown into the role, and I suppose we would have rather them in an Ireland jersey, not in a South African, but he comes away with another World Cup medal, so I think he's a man who's stuck to it. He's really been key to the successes over last season and the growth of that team. RG unfortunately has his injury worries he did since the time, so it's not like, without being disrespectful, they'll miss him in some ways, but not an awful lot. I think it gave that opportunity for a lot of players to grow, and there's loads of players there who can step up and fill those shoes. Tyg Byrne is still there. I thought he was exceptional again the weekend. Just kind of like that Caelan Doris for Leinster, where he's just always on the money, in his decision making and how smart he is, and again the Cúthar who's able to pounce when he needs to. So I think he was a great signing. He's a great man.
And he could still play a role, because Graham Rowntree was saying he's expecting him to be back in March. So like last season, RG could still play a crucial role for Munster.
And want a player to come in when you're at kind of the business end of the season, and at that stage you're going to hopefully not have a lot more injuries that you need to kind of rotate your team. And it's a long out season, and players aren't as robust as they were. It's great to have competition. I'll tell you one person who got a lot of abuse last year was Stephen Archer. And he stepped up between his scrummaging, which is his main, attribute. But he was there in the open, and he gave such a good pass again, leading up to one of the Munster tries. So I think with lots of experienced players there, it breeds competition, and that just breeds growth. And I just think it's full steam ahead for Munster.
Yeah, and looking at the past 4 weeks, they've played Ulster, Stormers, Leinster, and now Glasgow. They'll be pretty happy with the return out of those 4 games.
Absolutely. I see nothing but, mistakes are good because you learn. Grand, they gave away tries at the Mall, and when they went into an arm wrestle with it much more, I suppose, a bigger pack, that's something they have to build up in. But the speed of their ruck, how confident they are, the decision makings, the belief in how they're playing. I know throughout that match, we went up to Mike Prendergast for an interview in between, and he was happy enough with how things were. So when you go in with a game plan from a coaching point of view and as a player group, and you're sticking to plan, and there's the odd thing to work on, I think that's it's nothing but positive. You
mentioned team selection, and Graham Rowntree was saying, I think this morning, that he's going to hold off as long as he can to name his team, because there's such competition for places. Where do you see the biggest decisions being made? Is it in the back row?
Yeah, well, that's interesting, especially with Hearn. Is he getting a bit of game time because he's going to play 6 again there at the weekend? You would have we were talking even earlier in the season about a Dogbo and a Hearn, and what promise and potential there was there as well. But then you have Byrne back, and you might have thought that Byrne might slot into 6, but they're trying to Hearn out there. So will they continue with that? Hodnett is now kind of back in the scene. You even saw earlier in the season, Gleeson and Ruan Quinn as well.
Absolutely, Gleeson was rested this weekend.
Yeah. I think you could see it now in the we'll come to this I suppose later, the Leinster Connacht game. There's a lot of 6-2 splits you're starting to see now as well. So that the likes of then Gleeson and Quinn and even Kendall as well, who kind of who I think is a great player, kind of might be on the bench now as well. So you might start seeing more of these kind of these Rog has kind of done it over in La Rochelle as well. It's you're having these back rows, and you're going to have to slot in here in the back line if we need you, but you're an extra option. So they have options there as well. But Coombs, was brilliant again. Every time Coombs, I'm always fascinated to see. I'd love to kind of have a camera into the Ireland squad and see why he's not getting selected and why he missed out on the World Cup squad. Because every time you see him play, he's brilliant. It's Farrell might not is he not doing the work off the ball or something like that. But when you see him and he has his hands on the ball, so there was a kind of, I think it was before a Hearns try there at the weekend. And he's just, there's 2 men on him, and he's almost a bit like some of the big South Africans, Evan Roos, just kind of having a look around left and right, and okay, I'll offload to you now.
Make me a coffee while I make a decision here. Yeah. He made that little line break.
And so you would think that he would have to start. Hodnett again, man of the match in last year's URC final, and and then a Hearn, does he kind of switch there as well? So they have there's options. I feel like I've mentioned 12 names there. So back row is probably the biggest one, and then does Murray or Casey start again is the other one for me.
Bayonne come to town on Saturday, and it'll be interesting to see. It's the age-old question, what kind of team will travel for the French? Because looking at the European competition, 4 teams out of 6 will qualify. So maybe a lot of French teams and a lot of teams might just target their home games and send a weaker side on the road. But you'd always expect a big French pack and a physical performance from them.
Absolutely, and I think that's where it will be interesting, the selection, because obviously we've identified the problems if you go for a young a younger side who can move the ball, and you're confident. So that's the game plan I'm going to assume that they're going to go for this weekend as well. They'll be back to Thomond, which obviously you're back to a grass pitch, which slows your ball down naturally. So it's I would think it's going to be a mix of experience. The only thing with the back row that Tom Ahern brings is he's definitely another line-out option. And see, the likes of Kendall, he's not a line-out caller, he's not a line-out jumper. So I suppose your set piece is going to be absolutely key this weekend. We will go on to it with probably Connacht and Leinster, one who had huge success and was dominant and probably should have won the game, and one who wasn't. So I think he'll probably stick near enough to what he went with actually against Glasgow, with maybe the few additions. Is Peter O'Mahony due to come back this weekend?
They're hoping Peter O'Mahony and Jack O'Donoghue will be back for Exeter, so 2 weeks.
Okay, so I see Tom Ahern sticking in there, to be honest.
He's really been a revelation at 6, hasn't he?
He is, because he actually had a big tackle on Glasgow's number 12, whoever played centre. His name's gone now for me.
We'll get it up here.
We will have it here now. McDowell. McDowell thought it was a high tackle, but it wasn't at all. He kind of dipped, and it was another moment where I was like, all right, I've noticed you on the attack now, and then you absolutely smashed someone on the gain line, so I think he's a man in confidence. And the thing, Graham Rowntree has established that philosophy around his selection since he took over, because he doesn't want anyone to get complacent, and I think he's reaped the rewards of that. So unless there's major changes or injuries, I'd see a near enough squad to what played against Glasgow. You
were talking, Lindsay, about the high field he took from the cross kick,
and
God, he landed on his back, and then still got up like a madman and kind of just bashed a couple of people out of the way.
And finished. He finished well. No, I thought he was, he's excellent. And even for the confidence for that cross field kick to go, oh, there he is there. Yeah. Well, obviously, and that's something that's been noticeable for me, that there's this a real cohesion and trust. And everyone's, no one's better than the other, and everyone's willing to play the ball. So, yeah, definitely flying high.
And performances get rewarded. That's
Absolutely.
the thing about Graham Rowntree. They do. He'll keep giving the players who perform the chance, and the jersey is theirs.
But that's the philosophy any successful team plays with, because that's how you build culture. That's how you build. Like, if you don't give, if Pat has the game of his life and we don't reward him, then and listen, Pat, we believe in you. But you're not going to. You'll lose that player straight away. So I think he's come in, and his man management of people, and even I think the management themselves are a good combination of people. People who ex-Munster men who'll bring it, and Graham Rowntree there's no bullshit with him, to be honest.
Moving on to Ulster, another disappointing result for them. That's their third defeat since the start of the season. It finished 24-27. But Edinburgh deserved that win, especially after their second half performance. And they've taken down Connacht as well earlier in the season as well. Edinburgh, I suppose they've always been kind of that mixed bag side. They can either be absolutely brilliant, like they have the kind of home pitch as well, where it's kind of like 3G as well, where they can kind of carve teams up if they need to. But then they might go out the next week and kind of get absolutely trolleyed by somebody so. But no, they fully deserved it. And then Ulster needed that late try as well, a nice try from Hume, just even get themselves a bonus point. So everybody was kind of surprised by that. Ulster kind of they're never gonna they're not world beaters at the moment. It's always they kind of get close but not close enough. But you can pretty much you bank on them at home for a lot of their games. That's their first loss at home this season, so they were favourites, I suppose, going into this game. But looking at their performances at home, they fought back to grind out a win against the Lions. They fought back to grind out a win against Munster. So their performances have been disjointed.
I think it's just been both teams are so infuriatingly inconsistent, and I think the one for us, obviously, with being an Irish farm, is Ulster. There's great movement, great things about them, but the same with Edinburgh. Put the great things together, and then all of a sudden, inconsistent performances. So you're not going to get anywhere in this competition. We've seen it over the last 12 months, especially with the addition of the stronger South African teams, that you have no room for complacency, no matter who you are, whether you're top of that league or bottom of it. I found it an infuriating game. It was just like a pendulum swinging. When it's just Ulster, especially, to give away the Velicott try, which was just a pick and over the line. Any time Edinburgh were close to their line, they just could not deal with them, and that's been a consistent theme for them now over the last number of weeks. Just kind of switch off, can't deal with the pressure. And
Ulster started so well. Time Stewart getting over after 5 minutes. He scored a second try after 28 minutes, but they conceded 17 points either side of the break. and that was crucial. And giving Ben Healy a chance to kick, you know, is sacrilege really, because he's been brilliant for Edinburgh.
Yeah, he's really kind of slotted in, hasn't he? Like, still only you kind of forget how young he is as well, and kind of what a prospect he is, like, and what a shame it is that he's not in Ireland anymore as well. But yeah, I kind of think, like, it's funny with Ulster, like, ever since they discovered their own rolling maul weapon, like, they hardly seem to score any more different type of tries. Like, the back line has kind of been blunted a lot. Like, they go for that set piece because it works so much, but then they just rely on it so much as well then. Like, so like their back line like has so many like individual talents, but for some reason it's not kind of clicking as well. Maybe it's like we've discussed about, like, the not having a kind of 10 or like a 9-10 that they're kind of using regularly as well. And yeah, you know, the fact that they don't have maybe like the leader, you know, the guy who's going to play every game for them every week. And so yeah, it's a kind of shame to see, because they have the talents there. Like, you look at the team when it gets named, like even like Balakoon, such potential as well. And yeah, we talk about Hume, we got his try, but yet they can't seem to kind of marry it all together. Like, so I don't know whether things have just got a bit stale up there, but
discipline is one thing that's standing out from their performances so far. They've conceded 70 penalties since round one. When you look at Glasgow, who have conceded the most penalties with 80, you know, that's proven really costly for Ulster.
And I think it was last week or the week before we spoke about Ulster and their indiscipline. So they were so far ahead in games, and then they just can't handle the pressure. Yeah. So that's a game management thing, and that has to be something Dan McFarlane has to be targeted in your training sessions. So how do you mimic a yellow card? Do you mimic that your say opposition in training has an extra player? Maybe you're the referee and you're kind of putting the opposition, you're allowing things go, so the players you're looking at starting are under pressure and fatigue. It's those decision makings, and that's kind of sacrilege at this stage, that you're letting games away from indiscipline, and indiscipline comes from being under pressure and making poor decisions. And this is something that if they do not eradicate this, we're going to be here every week speaking about how infuriating they are, because Hume's try was ridiculous. He had no right to score that.
Yeah.
You know, his footwork, he carved his own try. Same with the Balakoon. They're not getting him enough on the ball. A little bit the Jacob Stockdale. They have to come off their wings and make an awful lot.
He had a lovely offload, but the try, I don't know.
The try came from Stuart Small, and they just kind of gave a little offload, and he was in the corner. But I mean, the tries we're used to, the likes of Stockdale and Balakoon scoring, you know, they could score from their own half, and yet they're just not getting on ball. And I agree with Pat, when you look at, you know, the McCluskeys, the Humes, the Stuart Moores, Will Addison was back, you know, like, they have exceptional players who are they're world class and could be in any international team, and yet I don't know what is going on. Is it petulance? Is it
the game plan?
I think it's a combination of a number of different things. I think a big issue for me is the half-back pairing. If you want to marry what is a really good forward pack, grant some young players getting their debuts, but I mean they're not big changes. I think they really missed Ian Henderson this week, who has actually been playing well, but then they started with another combination of Cooney and Billy Burns, was it not, this week as well? So every week it seems to be a different half-back pairing. He can't seem to decide where he's playing Nathan Doak. So I think that's going to be a big issue for them, and I think when we go into Leinster, we'll go into, when you have an inexperienced half-back pairing, how that can sometimes impact your overall game plan.
I was thinking, like, should they just pull the trigger and just go for Doak at 10, because he has experience there as well, and he's a confident lad as well, and has the kind of like the build, and the kind of like, you can even see like he slots in there every now and then. Like, if you had Cooney and him together, I
like that pairing.
Yeah, could you work with that? Like, yeah.
But Flannery, they gave him, I know he's injured at the moment, but he played well when he was given the chance at the start of the season in the first few rounds as well.
We were speaking about that and saying give him a run of games then, and then injuries kind of come into it. But yeah, I've often kind of liked Doak, like, you know, and because like Cooney, like, and then you could even have Cooney still doing the goal kicking, and then that takes the pressure off Doak again. Like, although Doak would probably be happy enough to take the kicks, like, but. Yeah, he's kind of, that could be a combination that you'd kind of love to see him trying, because like Billy Burns, like, you know, he played for Ireland. Kind of, I know we had that unfortunate kind of missed kick for touch against Wales that time, but like a steady enough player. But like, you know, you've seen him in the big games where he used to really count whenever they'd come up against Leinster as well. He'd throw an interceptor. Like, Leinster would keep the pressure up, and they knew a mistake would be there. Like, so you could see that happening again in Europe. Like, you know, a perfectly good kind of pro and a lovely guy around the scene, but like, if Flannery is injured, if hopefully he's back soon enough, but if he's not, maybe give Doak a go there and see how you get on. Because I'm not going to say it can't get any worse, because Ulster could probably come out next week and surprise us all if you hear raving about them next week. But yeah, maybe give Doak a go there.
Well, this time last year is when it all unravelled for Ulster, because they were beaten by Leinster, and then we remember what happened in Europe, and things just kept getting worse for them. So they don't have an easy task this weekend. They're away to Bath. Bath are second in the Premiership at the moment. They've been going really well. They've beaten Exeter. They've beaten Saracens away. They have Finn Russell in there, who's been critical for them. He's really added to their game. So it won't be easy for Ulster. How do you think they'll do?
I think it'll suit them going in as the underdog, if I'm honest. Excuse me, swallowed a fly there, I think. I think they'll. I'm hoping they'll be happy enough going in with as an underdog tag, but I think selection will be key now this week. I think the only good thing for them is Finn Russell is an exceptional world class player, but no more than with Scotland. If he's on, he's brilliant. If he's not, so I would target him. Like if I was Darren McFarlane, I'd be targeting him, because he's going to be key to what Bath do and do very well. And they have started well. They're second in the Prem. They deserve that. But I think he's someone that if you target and don't let him in the game, then he can't pull the strings. And that's how essential he is to success of Bath this weekend. But I think it'll suit them to go away from home. I think it'll suit them being the underdogs. And I do hope that they come away with a win. I do think, though, I would have to favour Bath being the home team, and they're on a wave of confidence now, and that will be something that will go in as their kind of the plus for them.
Yeah, tough few weeks ahead for Ulster. Now, if we finally turn our attention to the game of the weekend in the sports ground on Saturday night, it finished 22-24 in favour of Leinster. Heartache for Connacht, as Leinster have done many times before, Pat. They found a way to win. Yeah,
it was funny just to kind of see the celebrations at the end, how much it meant to those Leinster lads. Like it was one of those games where it really could have went either way. Like, and I remember talking to somebody at the day of the game and kind of saying how, I kind of thought Leinster would win, but if Connacht knocked them over, it wouldn't surprise me, because they were in that type of form. And then there was even stuff that was flagged in advance that you kind of like the line out and stuff like that, and going after Leinster at the set piece as well. Connacht went and did all that. Like, the new coaches they have in seem to be kind of doing the job as well. But Leinster still found a way to kind of get the job done. And that's, we were only talking in the office there beforehand about someone like Kieran Frawley. It's like, it's almost like he has to get into the Ireland team. Like, he's been talked up for a few years, but he's got that type of confidence about himself to even just cut in and back himself to score that try. Like, there's got to be a room for him in the Ireland kind of squad or a match day 23 somewhere, because he's just so this is like, again, we're talking about sacrilege. I don't know, talk to poor Jimmy O'Brien at all, who's a class player, but could he slot in and do that kind of similar role where he's kind of you fit him in and he plugs in anywhere across the back line as well. But Connacht will be gutted. They've started the season so well, but yet their record is not as good as their play kind of, it deserves to be. Like, they could easily be 6-1, but they're 4-3. But a lot, so many positives. Like Mac Hansen came back, looked great. Even Ralston, they kind of switched him his position. He's just got pace to burn. Kilgallen, be talking him up every week. I think he's just so class as well. And Cathal Ford. It's so much going well for them, but just couldn't hold out.
Cathal Ford, though, with the yellow card was unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think Hawkshaw did really well when he came off the bench.
He did.
He did really well. I think it is always the bridesmaid, never the bride, is really unfortunate. I'm sorry. I know.
It hurts.
Just wipe that tear there, right? No, do you know what I found interesting before the game? It was a great question, right, by Bernard Jackman to Pete Wilkins before the game. So he said, how do you prepare for Leinster when actually they're the hardest team probably to prepare for, when you don't know what team is coming to town? And when I saw, so we had this last week, Leinster will come out after, the win against Munster, and you're building up to Europe and away to La Rochelle, and you're kind of thinking, they'll go for a mixed team. And when I looked at the team sheet, I was like, wow, I did not see that coming,
I don't think many people did.
No, really, really inexperienced halfback pairing of Ben Murphy, who was actually under 20. Obviously, he's probably sick of this. He's son of Richie Murphy, but, has lots of experience, deserves to start. But then you pair him with Harry Byrne, and we'd lots of chat about, would we play Kieran Frawley at 10? And then you're looking at Sam Prendergast, who deserves to run, and you're kind of like, wow. So Rob Russell's back in now. I thought he would stand out now for Leinster. He was exceptional. I think he had 13 carries, turnover, the amount of meters, 85 meters he made. So his stats were off the charts, and obviously then he'd he had a kick through Charlie Natai. I got him right this week. I thought he was exceptional. The first try for Leinster.
He was brilliant.
Really?
Yes. I think
try.
his first try after all his games. I couldn't believe it. I had to pick my jaw up off the ground. I was like, really? But even his little chip through. So there was glimpses of the Leinster we know can play. Even that the quick tap where the pod moved out. Ben Murphy comes in, and then because obviously Connacht were expecting the pod carry, like skip them, which is a face ball, which is so hard, and then into Natai, and he just scores. So huge glimpses. But Connacht did their homework, because for Mac Hansen's break, Leinster were lazy, so they hadn't folded enough players around, and they exploited that. So there's really good decisions by Connacht, and when they made those, they absolutely ripped Leinster apart. It's just, again, comes back to game management, because they
closing out the game, because they'll be sick with that.
But Caelan Blade had it. I mean, I was like, what are you doing? Are you like shining the ball? Get the ball out.
Yeah.
Get it to your back
There
line.
was that scrum decision. Then there was the line out, the crooked throw, just throw to two.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Look at you, throw to two. I'm so proud of you.
I'm learning a lot off you, Lindsay. But keep it simple.
Absolutely, just win the ball. Just win the ball. Doesn't matter if you have to give it to your granny, she puts it up her jumper, and it's just not in a Leinster hand. And that comes again to game management. And it's like, I'm a huge Leinster fan. I'm obviously delighted that it came across the win, but it was kind of one of them where we robbed it. We absolutely robbed Connacht blind, because you did deserve the win. I thought some of your rugby was exceptional. I thought Mac Hansen, he's only back, and he was unbelievable.
And slotted into 15.
I like him at 15.
Yeah.
We said this last year. Like, I like him at 15 because like, he's obviously an X10, so he's a very smart footballer, but he just oozes this I don't give a shite. You'd forgive people for saying, oh, this lad loves himself, he's full of confidence, but we've met him. He's just a really down to earth guy who just doesn't, he takes it all in his stride,
he just looks like he has all the time in the world when he has the ball in possession.
All the time. He makes really good decisions, and then he brings the likes of poor Dermot Kilgannon. When you're a winger, never been there because I'm not quick enough, but I'd say it's not a nice place to be on a cold night out west, but then can bring players in at the drop of a hat. Same with Caelan Blade, the passes, the intricacies. So they'd be unfortunate with the yellow cards. I think
let's talk about that yellow card decision, because it felt like it was a harsh decision, because the elbow was coming from, wasn't it, Natai?
Yeah, Charlie Natai. I thought Natai was in jeopardy of getting the yellow card, because I was like, oh, he kind of ran over him.
Is on the defender.
I thought he was very unlucky, and I suppose the issue is it has to be black and white when it's this head kind of, yes, and he is very unfortunate, and I really did feel sorry for him, because as a player you're kind of like, well, what could I do there? I'm on the back foot, I'm on my heels, I've made an effort to dip, and to me, like, I've been that player where I do love a go down handoff, but I mean, you can be guilty of kind of just dropping the shoulder and trying to run over someone. So I thought, to be honest, I was like, oh, Natai's in trouble here. But the letter of the law says the defender has to make the effort, and it's their responsibility. So I think it's an unfortunate, here's where it says in the law, you fit that mold,
and if they're trying to cut it out of the game, I suppose they have to be harsh, and they have to make these decisions.
Well, we had huge chats again throughout the season last year where Reds were deserving, then you'd others were afraid to make the decision, especially in big games against big teams, and when it's players' health and well-being and something you're trying to stamp out of the game, and you have a responsibility as an overall union, it just has to be black or white. So it is unfair. I do feel sorry for Colford. He was having a great game, and it did impact, I felt, Connacht at that time. They
didn't concede anything during that yellow, and I think the thing about Connacht is, when they're looking back at this game, is there's so many positives. Like, they defended so well. They never looked under pressure when Leinster were in the 22. Yeah,
and that's such a big thing. And Leinster are normally so lethal, like in call it the red zone. And they always kind of get points on their visits to the 22 as well. And but there was no kind of panic. It's that kind of thing that, again, you used to kind of see it with the likes of like Ireland in the World Cup as well. They all trust each other so much, and no one's shooting up and panicking, or if someone's shooting up, they know that that's his role to kind of do it as well. And everybody was just kind of communicating with each other, and kind of, the defence was such a kind of thing to be to be pleased with. And that's why I suppose like that's why the Frawley try was so good, because like the lads were doing, like, everything was going well, and even they didn't look in that much danger, like as they kind of, like, Leinster were brave enough to kind of spread it like wide for that last attack, but it's just a kind of moment of brilliance. Like, I think I saw it, Damien Williams has scored a good try for his Stormers at the weekend as well, where like it's just that step at speed takes out two guys so quickly as well, like, so but yeah, Connacht, they'd be like sitting back there, like, and like tiny kind of dressing rooms out there and at the sports ground as well, and they'll be all packed in and each other and stuff, but they would just be wondering how they didn't get anything.
Kick them when they're down, Pat. Oh, those tiny
little dressing rooms.
They don't even have the money to get proper ones.
Quaint dressing rooms. Like. But yeah, that's it. Like, but a lot of positive work, and as you said, like, yeah, they'll look back. I think they probably ended up. They could have been like, I think, a point off fourth, and now they're down in kind of seventh or something like that.
It's so close in the league at the moment. But Leinster, credit to them. We're talking about Connacht's defence. Leinster still got the bonus point win, and looking back at this game, they won't look at the performance, they'll look at the 5 points that they got.
Well, it's probably two things. Connacht didn't, just before we move on, Connacht didn't concede during the yellow card, but then the amount of time you have to work, I think we probably saw the repercussion of that towards the end of the game, because the little time that I saw the Williamson try as well, you're so tired, your brain switching off, your communication drops, and it's those little moments where other teams will pin you. So not to take away from Connacht, I thought they looked fairly comfortable now in defence. Another big shift by Cian Prendergast, who has to be into an Ireland squad now at this stage. He was immense obviously in South Africa as well, between turnovers, his carries. He's really coming up as a leader for them. But Leinster, they're just a team that know how to win, except against La Rochelle. But it kind of drip feeds down through all the levels, and the younger players, they're just so confident in their game plan. They're so confident that they won't lose, and that's a huge psychological advantage to have over any team.
Yeah, they're not playing at their best, but they're still 6 from 7. They've only lost one game since the start of the season. Yeah,
you just know how to win, and like, I know we were having the crack there with that, but just even like saying that, to get the ball in at 2, just to know how to retain the ball, how to manage it. Players knowing their role, they're confident in who they get. Like, even Natai, just a little chip through, like, you think, oh, we're under pressure. Now, they were a good bit ahead at that stage, but they weren't a good bit ahead. I think they maybe only...
They were 11 points ahead with 10 minutes to go. Yeah.
So he wasn't feeling the pressure. That was the decision he went with at the time. He obviously saw something, that there was a gap. Rob Russell should have probably finished it. And then Ronan Kelleher reaped the rewards of that. So that's what I mean. They're not afraid to try things. They're not afraid to put teams under pressure. And the other bit of that, when you're the opposition, is how do you defend the unpredictable? How do you defend the unpredictable when you can go for a chip through, they can go through hands, they can go through a crossfield kick, they can just carry it, to the gain line. They brought off their own bomb squad off the bench,
but Connacht had the upper hand in the scrum.
Jeez, I thought Dave Heffernan, obviously ex-Leinster, who else? Peter Dooley, ex-Leinster, and then Jack Ainger was unbelievable.
Dylan Tierney Martin came off the bench as well.
So, there's huge positives. Like, I can't undermine Connacht. I really... I did kind of well up. I was like, oh God, my heart went out to them now, I have to say. And I think Pete Wilkins has done a really good job there. I listened to him in his pre-match, and I thought he spoke so well. He seems a good guy. It's nice to have the consistency there. Obviously, he was part of the management. So I think they're a team that's flying, but I would like to see them just finishing out games. And I think that no more than Ulster, in a different sense, they just have to manage it for to build on their own good work and not let that just go down the Swanee.
The biggest question ahead of next week now for Leinster is, of course, the question about who he'll pick at 10, because last week we were convinced that he might go with Frawley again after such an impressive performance. Now Harry Byrne came on. Do we read into that Harry Byrne is going to start this week? That Harry Byrne was given game time ahead of La Rochelle, and Frawley is the utility back again?
I think they'd be mad starting Harry Byrne. Lots of chat about him. Lots of chat about how skillful he is, and lots of chat like internally about he's different to his brother, so it's very hard to compare the two. But I haven't seen anything that instilled that confidence going in now to an away European game that we really need to start on the front foot for this. Like, what I want to see now with Jacques Nienaber in is that there's lots of chat about Leinster not having won trophies that they should have, and they should have. They're a province now that will be absolutely scared, and what I want to see now is like kind of this moment where they are taking no prisoners, and I want to see that starting this weekend. So for me right now, I don't think Harry Byrne is ripened enough. I do see Harry Byrne being back after his arm injury, and then who's his backup. So I would think Frawley, personally.
To start.
No, I think Harry Byrne to start probably if he's fit. He's deserved that. He hasn't put a foot wrong. He's a very different player to Johnny than we would have been used to. But I think for the consistency and what he brings in the kicking, his territory, it's going to have to be a complete game plan by both management and a playing.
Because whoever
you're Ross Byrne, is it, if he's fit?
Yeah.
Why,
who was I saying?
Harry Byrne.
Oh, sorry, Ross Byrne. To start if he's injured. And I don't...
Ross Byrne won't be back for, I don't know what his prognosis is, but he won't be back for another few weeks. So you'd imagine whoever they pick at 10 this week will be the starting 10 over the next few weeks. They have to stick with someone at this point, don't they?
Yeah, it's funny, it's like I was even kind of doing a piece there last week on like the best young prospects in Irish rugby, and I think I had Harry Byrne and John Hodnett were my number 10 in it, and I think I ended up going with Byrne, and I got so much grief for it as
John
well.
John Hodnett at 10?
No, like top 10.
Oh,
but maybe we could try.
That's a curveball.
But Byrne gets a bit of grief, and it's like he's been a bit unfortunate, like that he does get like injuries at the wrong time, and he doesn't ever have like a consistent run of games as well. But again, he's one of those people. It's more like the legend than what we're actually seeing on the pitch. Like, because everyone talks him up, and like, but I've seen glimpses of it as well. But like, what you just need is like that run of games. So like, maybe he might get it at the week. Like, if Ross is out for a while, they might just go for it and say, here, listen, 2 European games. Like, it's a big risk. Like, it's probably going to be. Surely they can't go Sam Prendergast. So it's going to be Harry Byrne or Frawley. Like, and the safer option probably seems to be Frawley. Like, but
I'd go with Frawley. Like, think about it. Like, he brings on the gain line. He's very physical, runs great run lines, knows his stuff inside out. And I just think if we start with Harry Byrne, they're going to target him. Now, if you have a 10 who's out of the game from early onset, and then he's out of kilter, he's kind of flustered. Now, I'm not saying he is, but I have to agree with Pat. There's been a lot of chat, not a lot of actions to back it up. And, even internally through coaching, a guy who was involved with us with Ireland years back, would have spoke just briefly, nothing comparing anything, but would have spoke so highly of Harry. And I am the same thing. I'm waiting to see that, because I think as well, when you're used to Johnny, when you're used to success, when we have to move on, obviously, as well. But I just think it's come at the wrong time for us. So I'd personally start with Frawley. Harry Byrne probably has to start on the bench. I think Sam Prendergast is probably a little bit too inexperienced. But at the same time, I wouldn't actually doubt that man, because I think he just come on and he's a little bit like Matt Hansen. Nothing really fazed him. Took a little bit of... who was he against? Glasgow, was it that time? Who did they play where he started... Scarlett. Sorry, Scarlett. I thought he did exceptionally well.
He did.
Kind of phased in and out when they got a bit physical with him, which would be the only thing I'd worry about. But you're kind of looking at it now, going, right, now that Ross Byrne is injured, we're kind of really short on 10s for experience-wise and someone who's had consistency.
That's it, consistency. Because I feel like every time a player gets a chance at 10, they're under pressure because they want to do something amazing in that game, because they probably won't start the next week. So every player is trying to hold on to that jersey, but they don't have the confidence to know that they'll be picked in the following week. Like, Kieran Frawley really didn't put a foot wrong against Leinster. He said against Munster, and he said in the interview pre-match against Connacht that he wants to start at 10. So it's a difficult one. It
is a difficult one, and I think Frawley, I suppose, this has been the chat, probably from all areas of media, ex-players. They want to see Kieran Frawley at 10. He came in at the wrong time with Ireland, got injured, I think, wasn't it, away in that New Zealand tour. And he's been very unfortunate, but he started this season with Leinster exceptionally well. He's scoring tries, his running lines, he knows his the gameplay inside out. He's not afraid to bring players in. He's physical. That's going to be a big thing for me, and that's why I'd give him the nod this weekend. Nothing's going to faze him. So I think it is consistency, because it's funny, isn't it? We spoke about JJ Hanrahan, who we didn't even mention for Connacht. I actually thought he was exceptional against Leinster. And again, another thing, Pete Wilkins would have. It's a nice, happy rivalry between him and Carthy, but it brings players to rise up, and I think they do deserve that consistency. But they need to start looking at that probably long term if Ross is out.
La Rochelle on Sunday, they're in 9th position in the top 14 at the moment, but like Leinster, they don't become a bad team overnight. They're back-to-back champions. This game doesn't have a lot riding on it when it comes to Leinster's chances of getting ahead in the competition, but psychologically it's huge for Leinster to get one over on La Rochelle finally.
Yeah, it's perfect for them, like an early season game. Like they had the Munster one almost like as a big kind of warm up, and there'll be I think two Interpro games to kind of really kind of get the juices going. Like, but yeah, this would be if they lost again like 4 in a row then against La Rochelle. So to go, it's probably even better for them to go away. Like, and it's a big shame is that Ross Byrne is missing, but they'll otherwise be a pretty stacked Leinster team. They're going to put out on Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, Sunday afternoon.
Sunday
like afternoon. So, but La Rochelle will be kind of like they'll know again. Yeah, whoever's starting at 10 is going to be feeling the pressure. Like, so they're going to go for it. Like, and they have Leinster's number, like, and they'll, you know, and I'm sure I'd be so fascinated to see what Rog does this time to kind of build him up. He's always so class in the kind of media stuff, like, you know, like
what games will he play?
Yeah, like even like Leo Cullen and Stuart Lancaster never really liked kind of playing those games, but Rog will have some angle for him. They'll probably still be the little underdogs and kind of, and sure, like, you know, we never get the breaks and like almost like Davy Fitz or something like that. Like, but what kind of mind games is he going to play there? But like, yeah, this couldn't be a better test for Leinster, like to go over there, to go over to France. This is what they kind of needed last year. Like they won so much, they played at home all the time. They had a kind of like what some people would say is like an unfair path to the thing, which they earned, you know, like, but now they're going away this season, and this is like a great early season test for them to kind of see what they're made of, like, and see what the lads who've kind of like even it'll be interesting to see who starts, but like will all the big boys come back again, like, but will the likes of Culhane or kind of, you know, Scott Penny or Deegan, will they get a go, and who'll they go in the second row? It's kind of it's fascinating to watch. You'll have Ryan back, you'll have maybe Baird as well. It's the game of the weekend, like,
and it's difficult to assess really where Leinster are at because we haven't had that run, that continuity of players.
Yeah, like how do again, like, I'm going to assume Roger's going to prepare for the best Leinster team he's played against. This is the interesting chat about Nina Barr coming in. This is where I suppose this is his bread and butter now. He might be able to play the mind games back with Rog, considering, you know, who he's been protege for over the last number of years. He has to have picked up a few pointers with that. So I'm hoping he's going to galvanise, because I suppose that's one thing that stood out for me was Leinster's defence there was so many dog legs, the overfolding and decisions. So that's something they normally pride themselves on, is that line speed, those big hits against behind the gain line. I haven't seen glimpses of that now so far, inconsistently so I don't see Culhane getting, even though he had a great game at 8. Scott Penny, he's captain. I'm not sure, he'd probably be on the bench maybe, but he's probably one. Deegan, the same thing. He turned a corner for me, but I'm not sure he's going to get in. Do you know, I would think we're going to revert to type and a pretty much predictable Leinster team going ahead to France. But listen, I could be wrong.
And what way will this game pan out?
I think that the areas where I see La Rochelle targeting us exactly how they did before. They'll target the breakdown, they'll target the set piece, and it is something that wouldn't bode confident after coming away with Connacht now after the weekend, considering
O'Gara will have seen a lot of deficiencies over the past few weeks.
100%. And again, something that didn't stood out for me, we spoke about it in Munster, not being able to act in the moment to actually change something to try and negate the dominance of your opposition. I didn't see Leinster change anything. They just kept overthrows. Charlie Natai nearly lost his head with an overthrow from Lee Barron. But again, Lee Barron is coming in and he hasn't gotten a lot of experience. It's very hard to come in as hooker and expect to, like, you're having to throw, then the scrum is out of kilter. So there are things that I would hope would just, be able to, they're quick fixes when you bring back in experienced players, not to take away. You have to blood the experience. So, I would think, I would be sending out a message personally. I know it has no impact, but psychologically I agree with Pat. To me, Leinster need to go out. They need to absolutely blow every La Rochelle player who comes near their ball at the breakdown. They need to send a message where they're like, come after our set piece, because you're not going to have any fault with us this weekend. And I think that will just build the confidence for every other game going forward. Whether we're talking about URC or European competition, I think now they need to bed these down.
Will they get the job done?
No.
I think, I'd be I'm not too confident now. It's 50-50 for me, to be honest, because I don't know what team he's going to go with. And the other side of it, he could want to blood more players. You know, we've spoken about really exceptional players there who would get in the starting lineup in any other squad, and they mightn't even make the match day 23. So it's going to be hard.
Hard to see him do that though against La Rochelle.
I would hope he wouldn't. As I said, I think of anything, they have been our Achilles heel, and I think now, you know, we speak about these world, you know, renowned rivalries between Munster and Leinster. This has now become a rivalry that I want to put, you know, as a Leinster supporter.
I was actually starting to think there, like we're talking about Frawley as well, like, but it's all because of Nienaber is there now, like 6-2 split, 7-1 split. Even Frawley able to cover the whole back line, keep him on the bench. Have, you know, like your 7 forwards, like, you know, do they go really try and match him physically? Like, imagine that was his first play, like as proper. I'm head coach now, and like we're going 7 forwards on the bench. Like, you know, it'd be interesting to see. Like, but I think you might definitely see 6-2 like split, and kind of, and that's the big, like, the other thing is like, do they don't get in a lead against La Rochelle? Maybe try and be like the underdog and maybe come back in the second half, but. Yeah, even like a losing bonus point would be good, but like it won't mean anything to Leinster because they want to go there and kind of and show these guys
lay down a marker.
Because they can't lose 4. Well, they can, but they can't lose 4 in a row to them.
Yeah. Well, thanks a million, guys. That's all we have time for on today's show. Things are really heating up for the Irish provinces as focus switches now to European action. We'll be back again on House of Rugby next week. Until then, from myself, Pat and Lindsay, slán go fóill.